students, and welcome. This is Mr. Charles, and I'll be with you for the IGCSE online session number 7. Go to your workbook, page 41, Unit 5, Family and Friends. Using English, spot the mistakes. In each of the sentences below, there are two words in brackets. One is grammatically correct, the other may be something we say, but it's technically incorrect in this context. Choose the correct words for these sentences. You may pause the video now. It should take you less than 10 minutes to complete this question. Or if you want, you could pause it every time we pass from one question to the other. So we do A together. Now you pause it. You think of A. We solve it together, and then you pause it to do B, and then we solve it, so on. A. After he had run or ran about a kilometer, he sank or sunk to his knees with exhaustion. The answer would be after had, we need V3. And V3 of run is run again, because it is run, ran, and run. Like come, came, and come again. He sank or sunk to his knees. We don't have an auxiliary of have or has or had. So we need V2. We don't need sunk, that is V3. B. Cloth is woven or wove from a type of wool that has grown or grew on local sheep. We need both to be V3 again. C. The timid deer was drove or driven into a narrow valley where it was slew or slain by a tiger. Both of these options are for passive sentences, past passive. Was and V3, was and V3. So V3 of drive is driven, and V3 of slay is slain. Slew is V2, and drove is V2. D. A tree had fallen during a storm. Its branches lay broke or broken all around it. After had, as we said, we need V3, and and the second option, we also need V3. E. The sketch had been drawn or drew by a famous painter whose name was wrote or written at the bottom of the picture. Both of these are of passive, and for both of these we need V3, drawn and written. I was sitting in front of a television when I realized there was someone stood or standing behind me. For this, we have two long actions in the past. We usually express with past simple and past continuous, depending on the length of the action with the existence of when. But since here we have two long actions, the sitting in front of the television, this is not momentarily, and someone standing outside or behind him, this is also not momentarily. This takes a fairly long time. So both of them should be in the ing form. G. I can or cannot hardly believe that you kept this secret to yourself. This one should be pretty obvious. If you choose can't hardly believe, it means that you wouldn't believe. You wouldn't believe as little as with hardly, as little as mentioned. But if you can say I can hardly believe, it means that you can hardly do this. So you barely believe. So can. When it's spoken, some people may say can't. This is ill-grammatical. We cannot, as two words, or cannot, as one word, come to yours or your house tomorrow because we need to study for our math exam on Tuesday. We need to write cannot as one word as opposed to some other auxiliary plus not combinations. So the first one must be cannot. The second one, if you choose yours, we need a reference to a noun before it. And there is no noun before this. All we have is a subject verb negation with not, and then verb and then preposition. We have nothing that we are referring to. So yours is wrong. We need your house. The team usually wins, but its or its with apostrophe success is never guaranteed. The first it's that is possessive, and the second it is either it is or it has. Since we have a noun after this pronoun, since we have a success noun here, we need the it's possessive. The team owns the success. So the team usually wins, but this, his success, or it's the success it owns, is never guaranteed. Even though it usually wins, it's not guaranteed. So luck, maybe, they're always lucky. J, we knew it was or were wrong, but we laughed a lot as two entities or a lot as one entity anyway. We knew we should say was, because with it singular. And we laughed a lot, we should make it as two words, not one, or two entities, not one. Fill in the gaps with the correct form of the verb. Each one can be used more than once. This is on page this is on page 44, because the question on page 42, the text, and the question on 43, you have to read it yourself and answer questions 1 and 2 opinionated solely, because they require you to write, to use your thesaurus or your dictionary to try to come up with synonyms for these words. And since any word contain at least or has at least 3, 4, sometimes 10, sometimes 15 synonyms, this is for you to choose. So we'll leave questions 1 and 2 and go to question 3. Read the following passage about how we communicate and people respond when we speak to them. Choose the appropriate verb from the box to fill each gap, using the correct tense, past or present. You can use the same verb more than once, and the first two are done for us. To speak, to ask, to inform, to tell, to request, to respond, to answer, to talk, to discuss, to chat, to reply. Dutch, again, you may pause the video or continually pause it as we read. Dutch is spoken as a native language throughout the Netherlands, but many people also speak English and other languages. The Dutch seem to have a natural ability for foreign tongues. Unfortunately, I don't, and I certainly can't speak. After can't or can, we need a verb in the infinitive, speak, a word of Dutch. When my train stopped in The Hague, I had to ask a porter at the station if he could tell me the way to the main shopping street in England, or in English, sorry, English language. He replied or responded, both are correct in English, but he spoke with such curious intonation, I did not understand much of what he said. I tried again in my bad school French, but he obviously could not understand what I was saying. So I looked around for someone else to ask and found a policeman who spoke excellent English and seemed pleased to have an opportunity to talk or chat to someone. We talked or chatted about this and that for some minutes. However, by the time I had managed to get away from the station and the policeman, I had forgotten what I had been told. I did eventually find the main shopping street, but to tell the truth, I'm not sure how I got there. Splitting infinitives. The infinitives come in two-word form, to plus verb. For example, to eat, to dance, to grab, to have, to hang. In spoken English, some people mistakenly split the two words apart of an infinitive by inserting an adverb or any other word between them. For example, some people say, I sent her to quickly start studying. And this is ill-grammatical. This is wrong. Perhaps in spoken language, maybe it is valid, but while writing, this is wrong. You have to say, I sent her to start studying quickly. So you put the adverb at the end, and nothing separates the to plus infinitive formula. This is for written and spoken, both it is valid for. Again, pause the video or pause momentarily when we are solving. A. Ask Mrs. Adams to briefly explain what she wants us to do for homework. We should do to explain briefly. We should let explain closer to, as we said, and move the adverb further. B. Do you promise to obediently and loyally follow your leader? To follow your leader obediently and loyally. C. He tried to eloquently express his true emotions, but she laughed at him. He tried to express them in a sophisticated way, but she laughed him away. And our solving would be express his true emotions eloquently. Not to eloquently express, to express eloquently. D. I am writing to humbly apologize for hurting your feelings. So we cannot say to humbly apologize again. We have to say humbly, I'm writing to apologize for hurting your feelings. Because if you choose to say, I'm writing to apologize for hurting your feelings humbly, this means that you hurt his or her feelings in a humble way. And this is not first logical, or the meaning is not intended to be for the hurting of feeling. The humble manner is for the writing or the apology. So you have to bring it first, bring it at the beginning, and then go with, I'm writing to apologize for hurting your feelings. E, try to clearly and accurately describe what you see. Again, try to describe clearly and accurately what you see. Do not separate the two from the verb in the infinitive after it. We're done for today. Thank you very much for listening. Stay safe and keep up the good work.